Welcome to Business Talk Sister Talk. I'm Becca.
And I'm Ruthie.
And this week we have Mark and Tyreek back with us to talk about the episode, How to Promote an App. Last week, if you missed it, the first episode was how to develop an app. And so if you're interested in any of that stuff, you should definitely go back and check out that episode right before this. And we're going to pick up a little bit more with the promotion side. So thanks so much for being with us today, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks.
Yeah. So our first question about this is, when you were ready to launch your app and start getting exposure, how did you develop your game plan? What did that sound like?
Well, the game plan was to get more attraction as much as possible. It was more about Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just trying to develop those profiles, and that's it.
All right, which is awesome. And I think that people underplay a lot the value of social media and how that just the word of mouth through social media can really help promote anything really, but like specifically with apps and things too. So I think that that's really cool that you mentioned that. So what were some of the early lessons that you learned in your kind of your first round of launching launching your app?
My first round lesson was not connecting to groups on Facebook, like for instance, musical artist or aspiring artist. There's all kinds of groups on Facebook, just all about artists, and I didn't know how much demographic or how many artists were out there until I started being in the art world, and I started following them, and I started learning about their stories, and I started watching their paintings, and I was like, man, why can't we get these people into our application? And so from that point on, I started having conversations with them. Not for instance, like anything that I didn't know before, but everything that I knew about, I would give them advice on different things, and they would react in the most positive way, especially on Instagram.
Interesting.
Yeah. So kind of backtracking for our listeners, if they didn't listen to the last episode, can you give us a little bit of a description or like a breakdown of what exactly your amazing app does?
App is called Alosha app. You can reach us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and so on and so forth. At first, it was for musicians, right? When they were making beats, for instance, right? They were developing music, and they were spending all this money to be on Spotify, iTunes, and so on and so forth on all these applications, just trying to get heard. You know what I mean? Just the way I was trying to be heard, and they were getting nowhere, right? They were giving it all for free. So this application provides you with growth, with the opportunity to actually start making money at early stages of your career. You know what I mean? You don't have to give up in the middle of like 4 years of making music or making artwork. You can actually start making money within the first year if you're not even if you're not good enough, even if it's your hobby. You can start, developing some kind of noise around around yourself if you wanted to develop a career out of it. Well, the application does is this: when you go into it, you can either be a buyer or a seller. It really doesn't matter. You could be private or public. Uh, doesn't really matter. What the application does is it allows you to share 15% commission. I know other apps or other websites don't charge you commission, but they charge you subscription, and you continue to lose money with the subscription because they don't sell as fast as uh, other galleries or applications do. Or we don't charge you for time to be on the application, so we don't make money until you make money.
Okay, so you kind of mentioned that you were reaching out to these people in these Facebook groups, and it sounded like you were very good at developing relationships with people. So it sounds like that's kind of how you started promoting your app and kind of building that following of just like touching base with people specifically. And it sounds like you're able to do that in those Facebook groups. So when you were developing those relationships, did you refer people to like your website? Did you have a website, or how did you kind of tie in Alosha to when you were reaching out to those people and building those relationships?
Oh yeah, of course. Look, when people on Facebook groups was they were asking me, hey, how do you sell beats and get the most money for it? I'd be like, hey, look, there's plenty of opportunity out there. You know what I mean? I wouldn't just advertise myself at first. But there's plenty of opportunity out there to sell you beats, but you'd be spending a lot of money. And that's what I would say in the comments or in the messages. But at the same time, as I would write the comment, I would write the website down and at the bottom, and they would know about it. And then hopefully that they would choose to do, you know what I mean, what's best for them and the choice that they can make. And that seemed to work out just fine. And even the group, for instance, the creator was like messaging me, I'm like, dude, you're finding out new ways to advertise your business. I'm like, yeah, that's the way to do it,
Mm.
he was actually surprised by that. And I was like, wow, I maybe more people need to do this instead of just me.
Yeah. And it's like, honestly, Becca and I talk all the time about how the name of the game is providing value to people. And so I think like that is so true to what you've been doing. And it makes it so much easier when you develop something because you're not selling. You're not selling something that's useless. It's like you really believe in this. And it's so much
Yeah,
easier to see, like, I know that this will benefit your life.
yeah,
And here's how I can provide value to you. And it sounds like you've really found that when you were promoting your app, which is so cool. And I love that. Um,
absolutely.
so yeah, and it
we're
like,
we're we're not we're not just, what I mean, we're not just, post and show, what I mean.
mm,
After time, we're also trying to grow value for yourself as well. You know what I mean. We're not trying to make you to go cheaper on your price. We're trying to expand on your price as well as the time goes on. um Regardless if you're just a hobby or you're trying to get better, or whatever it is. So you don't have the main reason is you don't the time is not against you, it's working for you. That's it.
Yeah, well, in terms of like creating more content, you have more
Mm,
stuff, and then the more you
yeah,
have, the more people will look at it, right? No, I totally
yeah,
get it. So,
absolutely.
so
Yeah.
when you guys were putting this out there, what were resources that were helpful for you in understanding some app promotional tactics? Were there things you read that you were like, oh, this is really good advice? Are there any kind of tools or websites that were helpful in getting started?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. I actually went on Thumbtack, right? And I started to searching all these social media gurus. So
Mm-hmm.
from that point on, they were like telling me, man, you gotta, join these pages, you gotta join these clubs, you gotta you gotta join all kinds of stuff. You gotta be in it, man. You gotta comment on every question, everything about the art. You have to get people engaged into everything. You need thousands of views, you need thousands of followers, you need thousands of likes, so on and so forth. And I'm like, no, 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 you don't need any. I don't need any of that. The number one thing that I need is I can engage with people. uh uh I figured out a better way. I can engage with people one on one,
mm,
give them the right advice about the things that I know and what I know about, and that's how we have been able to be successful with other people logging on into our app and sharing their music, art, and sculptures with us.
yeah. So when you are looking back in time, say you started over again, what is something that you would absolutely do again?
The number one thing I could do again is start the Facebook groups a little bit earlier than ever, posting on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and I would learn about it more, um, in a progression, the way that it's going now. It would have been a lot faster growth, in the beginning than what it is right now. If I knew the things that I know now, it would have been a lot bigger than what it is.
Okay. So then when you were looking at starting your app and stuff, and how when you originally launched and you're working with developers, what is one way that you stayed in communication with the developers? Because I know that it seems like there's a big disconnect a lot of times with app developers and then the people who are actually promoting the event and promising things to their audience. So how did you stay in communication with your app developer in that process?
Well, Tariq is an amazing guy. He's really great. When I found him on Thumbtack, when I had this idea, I contacted him the next day, and I went through, I don't know, 5, 10 different people. So he was the only one who was able to. I only had five. Well, I'm not. I don't want to talk about money here, but only had a certain amount of money here, and he was able to work with me with the progression of initial payments, the way that it was a benefit for me at the time that no one else was offering. So when I found that out, I was like, this is the guy that I want to be in business with, because he is willing to help. He's willing to be in it to win it, and he is going to be in it all the way. And from that point on, we just clicked. We developed a relationship. I told him the dream. Well, I told him the vision. I didn't tell him all of the vision. I had no idea that he developed such a small apps before.
We should jump in here too, because Tariq is here, so he's like hearing all this praise about him.
That's still nice, but no,
Silently, just like, yeah. So my question, I'm gonna repeat that question a little bit. So Tariq, from your perspective, when you guys were getting ready to launch and Mark is doing all of this front end marketing work, how was communication helpful? Like what worked for you guys to make sure when it was going out, as people were trying it, all that kind of stuff?
it was it kind of we had our weekly meetings, and
Okay.
we would link up to kind of talk about the features I'm working on, and
That's the problem with me, is that I have a million of ideas, and Tariq only has so much time in a day, and he can't do it all. So what I decided to do is just to organize one feature at a time. But first things first becomes marketing right now, because we have more than 1,000 people who have downloaded the app. Uh, but mostly with the features, like, oh yeah, we can add this, we can add that. It's partially my fault, because I have a huge vision for Alosha that expands a million years from here on out
Mm.
into the uh into the sea. So, and the water is deep. When I realized, when Tariq was going on Ramadan to his, you know what I mean, he had to take personal time off. What I realized is that organization is the key to everything. So if we organize the development in a way that it doesn't overwhelm Tariq with his other projects, we would be better off as partners in that type of solution, because he's not, you know what I mean, he's not overwhelmed, he's not uh hot on anything, he's not sleep deprived or anything of that nature. So there's no time limit on any of developments.
Yeah. Okay. So how does going from like that development side and getting feedback from your customers when you started doing all the marketing, how did that help you create like a better product and craft your pitch more to meet your users' expectations?
So before they the app is what it is today, was what it is today, we had a bunch of issues. You know what I mean? Like people uploading their artwork, people sharing, and everything else. But what it is today, we fixed a lot of issues with the registering, credit card numbers, shipment labels, shipment arrangements, and everything of that nature that it wasn't working before. We actually fixed, what do you call it, display of artwork, make sure the artwork is displaying good, uploaded right, and music is playing well, and everything else. Make sure everything is downloaded like it wasn't working before. So we had to work a lot of issues before that we could get into the place that where we are now. Um,
Mm,
yeah, I
yeah,
hope
so
that
it
answers
sounds
that.
like
Does that answer the question or not?
yeah, then it sounds like this is a really in-depth app. Like there's a lot of different functionality that you can do with it with this Alosha, which is really cool.
Yeah,
And I love that you guys were taking that customer feedback, and you had said earlier that you had some one-star reviews and stuff like that. But that can be so valuable when you're looking at customer feedback, of just being able to use that to make your app better, and then in turn people can see how you're responding to those reviews, and that's a huge piece of marketing, to just for your customers to see that you have really good customer service. um,
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. But well, from the beginning, we had blank screens on everything, and I
mm,
was calling Tariq. I'm like, "What's going on? You know what I mean? Why do we have blank screens on profiles, and why is nobody willing to upload it?" And that's it. That's actually one of those concerns is actually in one of the comments. So I'm glad people actually commented on that because I didn't know. You know what I mean? I was working hard at the
Mm-hmm.
time. I was blinded by work, and I was
Mm-hmm.
trying to do 100 things at a time. So when we rejuvenated the app, relaunched back in last year, right, Tariq?
Yeah,
Or
it was actually, it might have been a year before that, but yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. We think we did relaunch. We did a rebranding anyway of
yeah.
I think the tail end of last year. Yeah.
So we when we rebranded, so everything else worked. All the concerns were met. All the applications were everything. So it was kind of like a trial run, but at the same time, we learned so much through that trial run, and uh, from all the negative comments that we had, we fixed all the problems, and now we don't get any comments. We don't get like reviews. We don't get anything. We just get downloads now. I guess that's a good thing, right?
hmm,
Yeah. So how do you stay motivated to keep promoting?
Well, the number one thing is I wanted to help artists. The number one thing I want to help musicians to grow, to be better than what they are doing right now. You know what I mean? With SoundCloud and Spotify and iTunes and all this and that, they're paying more than they can get out of it. I mean, why do you have to pay more? Why do you need to struggle even longer to do what you need to do? You know what I mean? Everything costs money, everything this, everything that, but your time is more valuable than anything else in the world. So you don't have to pay to keep your art on our application for your time.
Oh, we're going to transition now into our agak portion. And last week, if you missed last week, Tyreek told us a story. This week, Ruthie's going to tell us a story. And if you guys have not heard this yet, I'm excited about it because it just happened this week. So go ahead.
yeah, of course nobody's heard it yet.
I was just thinking, like, actually, you didn't tell before. Sometimes we kind of talk, oh, yeah, this is what happened. And then we're going to talk about it. But we
Yeah.
did.
Okay, so this week I was home visiting my family, and my dad, we were supposed to go on an outing, my dad and I, and he's very much like, well, we'll just finish this really quick, which really quick means I'm going to mow the entire lawn and it'll take me 2 hours. And I'm like, so I knew he was determined to do it. So I was like, I'm just going to go ahead and get everything set up so he can just do it. So I went into the shed, and I think this is maybe one of the first times that they've mowed. That's not real. That seems, they probably mowed other times anyways, but the tire was flat, and So I went and I found the air compressor, and I like found all these different tools, and I'm just like going ham, just getting everything all set up, and nothing was where it should have been. So I'm hunting for all these different things, and I've got it all set up, and the tire said it needed to be at 35 psi. So I was like, okay, no problem. I know how to do that. And so I just like start going, pumping up this tire and pumping up this tire, and it was completely like flat because it just had a leak. And so then I filled that one up, and I go to the other side and I'm filling it up, and it's at 10 psi, and I just could not get it to go up any more than that. And so I'm like trying and trying, and
I just am imagining this tire looking so swole.
it wasn't that bad. It just was like, and then it started, I was at about 20 psi, and it starts kind of making some sound, and I was like getting a little nervous, and I was like, it says 35, but I'm just gonna leave it at 20, like it'll be fine. And it's still kind of making its little noises and stuff, and I stand up, and I'm probably about like 2 feet away. Thankfully my face wasn't anywhere near it, and then all of a sudden it just sounds like a gunshot, like just exploded.
Oh snap! Yeah, I know that had to be terrifying.
Oh my word. And like I literally, it felt like my ear was bleeding. Like I was like, oh my
Oh
goodness.
man!
And scared me. And I was like, oh. And then I hear just like crying inside. And my niece was there. My mom was watching my niece, and she was like dead asleep and woke up just screaming. And so not only is my dad like, oh man, like now we got to get a new tire, was all mad, I also woke up a sleeping baby.
Just
And
enraged the whole family in one instance.
it was pretty fast. If you want a fast track way to disrupt the harmony of your home, that's the way to do it. And then literally all day long, my ear was just like ringing. I'm pretty sure I ruptured my eardrum.
Oh man!
Oh no.
So anyways,
Okay. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us this week. If you have are wondering about their app, you should check it out. It's called Alosha. And if you enjoyed this episode, definitely listen to the first one in this series, and we will see you next week.